Ever feel like you're just drowning in to-dos? Like constantly busy but never actually getting ahead.
You're definitely not alone.
It's so common. And that's exactly why we're doing a deep dive today into conquering your chaos, practical time management hacks for busy Americans. I have to say the title alone kind of makes me anxious, but
Just a little bit.
the good news is this book is less about adding more to your plate and more about right-sizing the one you've already got.
Yeah, it's about working smarter, not harder, as they say.
Exactly. So let's unpack some of these hacks and make them work for us. And I'm really happy to have you here to break it all down.
I'm excited to dive in.
Okay, so the first thing that really struck me was the emphasis on awareness. Like before we even try to fix anything, we need to understand where our time is actually going.
It all starts there.
Right.
It's like trying to solve a problem you don't understand.
Yeah.
You need that awareness first.
Exactly. And the book suggests something pretty interesting. A time tracking exercise.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I know it might sound a little tedious, but they suggest actually logging your activities for a week in 30-minute blocks. Have you ever tried this?
I have. It can be a real eye-opener. We often have this idea in our heads of where our time goes, but then we actually track it and surprise. It's often quite different.
So true. It's like those hidden fees they tack onto everything these days. You think you're getting a deal and then bam.
Exactly. Hidden time sinks.
Hidden time sinks. I like that Conquering Your Chaos calls them things like, endlessly scrolling through social media or getting sucked into that email vortex.
Oh, yeah, those are the worst. You sit down thinking you'll just check a couple of messages, and then an hour later.
Right, exactly. And it's not just about those big, obvious time wasters either. It's about those little sneaky ones that add up throughout the day.
Absolutely. It's about becoming aware of those patterns so you can start to reclaim those precious minutes and hours.
Okay, so we're aware of where our time goes or doesn't go. Now, what's the next step in conquering your chaos?
Prioritization.
Yeah.
It's not about just making a to-do list and hoping for the best.
Oh, I am so guilty of that.
We've all been there. The book introduces a tool called the Eisenhower Matrix.
Okay, I've heard of that.
It's brilliant, really.
Yeah.
Imagine this. You've got a work deadline tomorrow,
Yeah.
but you also promised your kid you'd help with a school project.
Oh, man, been there.
That's the urgent and important quadrant screaming at you.
Urgently and importantly.
Yes, exactly. But then there's that online course you've been meaning to take to boost your skills. That falls into important, but not urgent.
Right. It's important for my growth, but not like the world's going to end if I don't do it today.
Exactly. And it's where those long-term goals often get lost in the shuffle.
So how does the Eisenhower Matrix help with that?
It helps you visualize where those things fit in that big picture of important and urgent. Because sometimes those not urgent things are actually more important in the long run.
I'm starting to see how this could be a game changer.
It's about making conscious choices about where you direct your energy. We only have so much to give each day.
So true.
And the Eisenhower Matrix helps you visualize where that energy is best spent.
This is making a lot of sense. So we're identifying what's truly urgent and important. But what about those tasks that feel urgent but could be handled by someone else? Conquering your chaos talks about delegation, right?
Absolutely.
Because I think sometimes we feel like we have to do it all ourselves.
Oh, I know the feeling. But think about those emails that always pile up, or phone calls you dread making.
Ugh, the worst.
Right, those often fall into the urgent but not important quadrant. The key is recognizing when to delegate or even automate. You don't have to be a superhero and do it all yourself.
That is such a relief to hear.
Right.
So we're prioritizing, we're delegating what comes next in this journey to conquer the chaos.
Planning,
Okay.
but not just any planning.
Oh, no.
We're ditching the never-ending to-do list.
Really, I love a good list, though.
I know to-do lists can be helpful, but conquering your chaos suggests something even more effective. Focusing on just 3 high-impact tasks each day.
Wait, just 3? That almost feels too simple. How does that actually work?
Think of it this way. You know how sometimes you have so much to do that you end up just staring blankly at your to-do list, feeling totally overwhelmed?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
That's where those 3 tasks come in. By narrowing your focus to just the essentials, you prevent that feeling of overwhelm and actually get more done.
Interesting. So it's about quality over quantity.
Exactly. It's so easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of checking things off a list that we lose sight of what actually moves the needle. By focusing on those 3 crucial tasks, you're essentially saying these are the things that matter most right now.
That's a really interesting perspective.
It's about being strategic with your energy and attention.
So it's not about doing everything. It's about doing the right things and doing them well.
We got it.
Okay, I'm liking this approach already. So we're prioritizing, we're delegating, we're focusing on 3 high-impact tasks. But what about actually scheduling those tasks? Conquering your chaos also emphasizes strategic calendaring, right?
Absolutely. And not just for meetings either.
Oh no, tell me more.
We're talking about blocking out time for focused work, breaks, even personal activities.
Wait, I should be putting self-care on my calendar.
Absolutely.
Mind blown.
Think of it as a roadmap for your day. Instead of just reacting to what comes up, you're proactively designing your time.
Okay, I can see how that would make me feel more in control.
It's about reducing decision fatigue and making sure your time aligns with your priorities.
That's so important. I feel like I make a million decisions before I even get to work in the morning, and then I'm exhausted.
Exactly. So by having that roadmap in place, you free up mental energy for the things that matter most.
This is making so much sense. I admit I'm someone who loves a good to-do list, but I rarely think about putting those tasks on my actual calendar.
I hear you, but trust me on this one. It's a game changer.
Okay, I'm convinced I'm ready to ditch the to-do list and embrace the power of calendaring. But what about our environment? Does that play a role in all of this too? Conquering Your Chaos talks about that as well, right?
It does, because our surroundings can either support or sabotage our efforts to conquer chaos.
Yeah.
The book emphasizes the importance of creating a calm and organized workspace.
Okay, so we're not just talking about managing our time. We're talking about managing our space too.
Exactly, because let's face it, how can you expect to focus when your desk is buried under a mountain of papers and your to-do list is scattered across sticky notes?
Oh, tell me about it. Clutter is my kryptonite. It's like my brain can't function when I'm surrounded by visual chaos.
You're preaching to the choir. My friend, conquering your chaos encourages us to be ruthless with decluttering. Get rid of anything you don't use regularly. Create a system for filing papers and invest in organizational tools that work for you.
It's amazing how much lighter and more focused I feel after a good decluttering session. It's like clearing out the mental cobwebs.
It's like hitting the reset button on your brain.
Exactly. But conquering your chaos doesn't just stop at decluttering, right?
No, it goes beyond just tidying up. It's about creating a workspace that sparks joy and inspires productivity.
Okay, now we're talking.
Think natural light plants, maybe even a diffuser with calming essential oils.
Oh, I love that. I am a big believer in the power of aromatherapy to set the mood. I actually keep a lavender essential oil diffuser on my desk. It's like a little dose of tranquility in the middle of a hectic day.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about personalizing your space to make it work for you. And don't forget about minimizing visual distractions. If you're in a busy environment, noise-canceling headphones can be a lifesaver.
Those are essential, especially for those of us who work from home with family or roommates buzzing around.
Exactly. You've got to create those boundaries.
Absolutely. But even with a perfectly organized workspace, I think we all have those moments when procrastination rears its ugly head. Conquering Your Chaos addresses that too, right?
It does. And it takes a really interesting approach. Instead of just giving us a bunch of tips and tricks, it actually encourages us to understand the why behind our procrastination.
Okay, that's interesting. Why do we put things off even when we know it's not serving us?
That's the million-dollar question. And the answer can be different for everyone. But the book helps us explore some of the common culprits, like fear of failure, perfectionism, and even feeling overwhelmed.
That makes sense. I know for me, sometimes it's fear of failure, or maybe feeling overwhelmed by the sheer size of a task.
You hit the nail on the head. Conquering Your Chaos talks about how procrastination often stems from fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, even fear of success.
Fear of success. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Why would anyone be afraid of succeeding?
It might sound counterintuitive, but sometimes success comes with its own set of pressures and expectations. We might worry about not being able to maintain that level of success, or we might shy away from the changes that success might bring.
Wow, I never thought about it that way before. But it makes sense. We all have those internal narratives that can hold us back.
Exactly. And conquering your chaos encourages us to examine those narratives and challenge the negative self-talk that often fuels procrastination.
So it's about being mindful of our inner critic and replacing those negative thoughts with more supportive and empowering ones.
Precisely.
Easier said than done sometimes.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It's a practice. But the book offers some helpful strategies for overcoming procrastination. On a more practical level, it introduces a concept called temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling, that sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
So it's about pairing something you enjoy with a task you've been dreading.
Okay.
For example, only allowing yourself to watch your favorite TV show while you're folding laundry, or tackling that pile of paperwork.
That's brilliant. It's like tricking your brain into looking forward to the task you'd normally avoid. I'm definitely going to try that. What about those tasks that just feel too big or overwhelming to even start?
I was just about to get to that. That's where the idea of chunking comes in.
Chunking. Okay, break it down for me.
It's about breaking down large, daunting tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. So instead of looking at the entire mountain, you focus on climbing one manageable section at a time.
So instead of getting overwhelmed by writing an entire report, I could focus on just outlining one section at a time.
Exactly, you got it.
Chunking is such a simple but powerful concept. It's like that saying, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time?
I love that. By breaking things down, we make progress feel more attainable, which can be incredibly motivating. And conquering your chaos emphasizes how important it is to acknowledge and celebrate those small wins along the way.
Because every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory worth celebrating.
Exactly. It's about shifting our mindset from one of scarcity, feeling like we're never doing enough, to one of abundance, recognizing and appreciating how much we're actually accomplishing.
I love that. So we're decluttering our workspace. We're understanding our procrastination triggers. We're using temptation bundling. We're chunking big tasks into smaller ones. What other gems does conquering your chaos have in store for us? We're back. And, as we're talking about all of this, I'm realizing just how much our mindset plays into all of this. It's one thing to have a plan, but it's another thing to actually stick with it, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's about more than just checking boxes. It's about creating a sustainable approach to the time management, one that doesn't leave us feeling like we're constantly running on that hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And that's where conquering your chaos really shines. It goes beyond those external strategies and dives into the internal work that can make all the difference.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some of these internal shifts that can help us truly conquer the chaos?
Well, one of the biggest ones is embracing progress over perfection.
Oh, tell me about it. I am such a perfectionist. It's a blessing and a curse.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in striving for perfection in everything we do. But you know what that often leads to? Overwhelmed procrastination, even burnout.
Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt.
Right. It's like we're setting ourselves up for failure before we even begin.
Exactly. So how do we break free from that perfection trap?
Conquering your chaos encourages us to challenge that narrative. What if instead of striving for this elusive idea of perfection, we focused on making progress?
Progress, not perfection. I like the sound of that.
Right. What if we celebrated the small wins, acknowledged how far we've come, and gave ourselves permission to make mistakes along the way?
That's such a refreshing perspective. It's about shifting our focus from what we haven't done to what we have accomplished, no matter how small. Precisely. And this actually ties into another really important concept that the book explores: self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
Okay.
Okay. That's something I think we could all use a little more of. It's so easy to be hard on ourselves, especially when we feel overwhelmed or like we're not meeting our own expectations.
It's true. We can be our own worst critics sometimes, right? We treat ourselves with a level of criticism that we would never dream of directing towards a friend or loved one.
Oh my gosh, so true.
Right. But here's the thing. We deserve that same kindness, understanding, and compassion that we so readily offer to others. At least that's what conquering your chaos reminds us.
So instead of beating ourselves up for not having a perfectly organized schedule or for not accomplishing everything on our to-do list, we can practice self-compassion by acknowledging that we're doing the best we can with the resources we have. Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes giving ourselves permission to rest, recharge, and hit the reset button can actually be the most productive thing we can do.
I love that. It's not about pushing ourselves to the point of exhaustion. It's about finding a sustainable pace that allows us to show up as our best selves. Speaking of showing up as our best selves, conquering your chaos also talks about the power of gratitude. Right?
It does, and for good reason.
Yeah.
Because gratitude is like an antidote to chaos.
How so?
Well, it shifts our perspective from one of scarcity to one of abundance. It helps us appreciate what we have rather than dwelling on what we lack.
It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of daily life that we forget to appreciate the good things.
You're telling me. And those good things don't have to be huge, life-changing events either. Sometimes it's just about savoring that first cup of coffee in the morning or appreciating a beautiful sunset.
Those little moments can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And conquering your chaos encourages us to make gratitude a daily practice, whether it's through journaling, meditation, or simply taking a few moments each day to appreciate the good in our lives.
I'm a big believer in the power of gratitude to shift our perspective. It's like that saying, what you focus on expands. When we focus on the positive, we invite more of it into our lives.
Exactly. And you know what else is super important? Remembering your why.
Okay, tell me more about that. What does it mean to remember your why in the context of time management?
It's about connecting with your values, your goals, your aspirations. Like, why is it important for you to manage your time effectively? What are you hoping to achieve? What kind of life do you want to create for yourself?
So it's about the bigger picture.
Exactly. Because when we have a clear sense of purpose, it fuels our motivation, our commitment, our resilience.
That makes so much sense. It's like having a North Star to guide us, especially when we're feeling lost in that sea of to-dos and obligations.
Exactly. So whether your why is to spend more quality time with your family, pursue a passion project, make a difference in the world, or simply create a more peaceful and fulfilling life, remembering that why can help you stay focused, motivated, and inspired on even the most challenging days.
This is all such great advice. I'm really loving this holistic approach to time management. It's not just about checking things off the list, it's about designing a life that feels aligned, balanced, and fulfilling.
You got it.
We're back and diving into the final part of our deep dive. We've covered so much ground already, from awareness and prioritization to decluttering and taming technology. But there's one more gem from conquering your chaos that I want to make sure we touch on before we wrap things up.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Flexibility. Because life happens, right?
All the time.
No matter how well we plan, sometimes things come up. Schedules change. Unexpected challenges pop up. And it's easy to feel like all of our hard-earned time management skills just fly out the window.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
Right? So how do we stay flexible without letting those curveballs completely derail us?
Well, conquering your chaos reminds us that flexibility isn't about being perfect. It's about being adaptable.
So it's less about sticking rigidly to the plan and more about having a plan, but being willing to adjust as needed.
Exactly. It's like having a roadmap. You know where you want to go, but if you hit a detour, you don't just give up and go home.
Right. You find a different route.
Exactly. You adapt.
Yeah.
You adjust.
Yeah.
And you keep moving forward.
I love that analogy. And it's something I'm trying to get better at in my own life because I can be a bit of a planner myself. And sometimes when things don't go according to plan, it's easy to get discouraged.
Oh, I hear you. It's like that inner critic starts saying, see, you can't even stick to your own schedule.
Exactly. But conquering your chaos reminds us to be kind to ourselves in those moments. Because life is messy and unexpected things happen. And it's not about being perfect. It's about doing our best adapting to the circumstances and giving ourselves permission to course correct along the way.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
And you know what else I love about this book? It reminds us that this is a journey, not a destination.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, we're never going to reach this point where we've perfectly conquered chaos and our lives are always going to run smoothly. It's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah, so true. And it's about finding joy in the process, even when things get a little messy.
Exactly. And you know what else can really help with that? Celebrating our wins, no matter how small they might seem.
Oh, absolutely. Because every victory, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction.
Exactly. It's like giving ourselves a pat on the back for a job well done. And it helps us stay motivated to keep going, even when things get tough.
So true. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm feeling so much more equipped to tackle the chaos in my own life. From those practical tips and strategies to those mindset shifts that can make all the difference.
Me too.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think the most important takeaway from conquering your chaos is that we have more control over our time and our lives than we often realize.
Absolutely. It's not about becoming a slave to our schedules. It's about designing a life that aligns with our values, our goals, and our aspirations.
Beautifully said. And I think that's a great note to end on.
I agree. So to all our listeners out there who are ready to take control of your time and conquer the chaos in their lives, remember, you've got this. And we're here to support you every step of the way.
Cheers to that.
Cheers. Until next time, everyone.